Sky News have published another powerful report on how the people of Gaza are being forced from region to region under the constant threat of airstrikes.
The airstrikes come without warning. For some, it's enough. Time to leave again. The constant move to the promise of safety, which doesn't exist. They mostly walk in silence. Women and children watched by Israeli tanks and struggling under the weight of whatever belongings they can carry. Some can barely face it. They've lost the energy to keep fleeing a war that has no front line. In the panic to escape, these children have lost their mother. A sleeping baby has also been separated from her family.
This girl was with her grandmother, an elderly lady. Her grandmother dropped her. We don't know who she is. All we know is how to help each other. So we are waiting here in hopes that her parents will come and take her.
This is the safe zone they have been sent to. The airstrike on Wednesday morning left a huge crater. It is no wonder that so many don't feel like this is a better alternative to life in the north.
We don't know where we have to go. Seriously, there is no safe place to go to. No safe place, so we don't know. Seriously, we have nothing. We lose everything we have.
It's a really powerful report, and just so, I think it's that juxtaposition of seeing what seems, I mean, obviously being separated from your parents in that kind of situation is completely appalling. You don't know if you'll ever see them again, right? But it reminds me of, when I was a toddler, sort of not being able to find your mum in a supermarket. It's the kind of thing that one can relate to, even if the horror is completely incomparable, right? And then you get just that airstrike on a bunch of tents, and it's just something completely out of my sort of realm of knowledge or experience or existence. It's just both of those sort of being side by side. It's just so, I suppose, painful to watch. Of course, making Gaza unlivable is not an accident. It's part of Israel's plan, and that has long been made explicit in the so-called General's Plan. Now, this was put forward by retired General Giora Eiland. He's the guy who famously, towards the beginning of this war, said that it wouldn't be too bad if pandemics or epidemics were to spread throughout Gaza, because then that might make people leave sooner. The General's Plan calls for the expulsion of Palestinians from the entirety of northern Gaza and of the forced starvation and targeting of whoever stays behind. Eiland spoke to Sky.
What we should have done to tell all the remaining 400,000 civilians that they should leave this area. Even the competence of Hamas, everyone should leave. But after 2 weeks, I will stop the supply of food, fuel, and other, important material. And this is the most effective way to conquer the northern part of Gaza without killing civilians, because all those civilians, by that time, will be out of this area.
And if they can't leave? Or if they don't want to leave?
I'm saying I will not begin the siege before I see what is happening with the civilians.
And what if Hamas will leave? Then what do you achieve?
Now I have a real leverage that might force you to release the Israeli hostages. Because if you don't do it, I will not evacuate this area.
We have verified this video of an Israeli drone strike near the coast. The people watching, believed to be soldiers, laugh as one of them sings the final countdown. Israel denies that there are plans to reoccupy Gaza, but bulldozers are destroying what few buildings are left standing. Northern Gaza is steadily being emptied, and any memory of life here eradicated.
Northern Gaza is steadily being emptied and any memory of life eradicated. That were the words from the reporter there. I think very clearly evidenced by the report. That's not just his opinion. And to me, that sounds like the textbook definition of ethnic cleansing, right? You're clearing everyone out and you're making the place unlivable. right? That's ethnic cleansing. When it comes to legal definitions, ethnic cleansing and legal definition, when it comes to legal definitions in international law, the UN Special Rapporteur for Palestine has expressed severe concerns about our own Foreign Secretary, David Lammy.
You may have seen a few weeks back, David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, was asked in Parliament a question about whether he would describe Gaza to be a genocide. And he said the scale of the killings was nowhere near a genocide. So he dismissed it outright. How is genocide defined, and how would you respond to Lammy's?
Excuse me, I can't believe that. He's a lawyer, isn't he?
Yes, a human rights lawyer.
All right. I'm surprised because the first instinct of a lawyer would be to look at the legal documents, the jurisprudence, and probably David Lammy has to explain to the public where did he read that is the number of people killed who define genocide. Probably David Lammy should read Article 2.4 of the Genocide Convention, which refers to an act of genocide that doesn't even involve the killing of one person.
Really?
Or the fifth. I mean, there is genocide through forceful transfer of children. And this is how the genocide in Australia has been mainly perpetrated, and including in Canada. So this is why I insist on the settler colonial framework. Yeah. While David Lammy is not the only genocide denier, I think that it's particularly serious when it comes from someone who has a position of authority, who carries an even greater authority because he's a man of law. But excuse me, what constitutes genocide is established by Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, not personal opinions. And it's the intent, the determination to destroy a group in all or in part through several, even one only of these acts, killing, infliction of severe bodily or mental harm, and creations of conditions of life which would bring about the destruction of the group. And look at Gaza today. Gaza has been destroyed. Most of the civilian infrastructure, arable land, all universities, the civil registry, the National Archive, the historical and religious, cultural heritage of that place, the medical infrastructure, all universities, all schools. How does David Lammy call this? Is it a war? I'm very concerned because this is not a war. If this is a war, we are entering a new stage where war doesn't respect anything that has to do with civilian life. And this is to be pushed back. So whatever ignorance exists there, it can be resolved with a good reading of what genocide is and how it has been commented on and developed as a concept through international jurisprudence.
That was Francesca Albanese, the UN Rapporteur for Palestine. Ash, I suppose, what more is there to say on this?
Well, I suppose just pointing out the obvious, the reason why David Lammy and Keir Starmer are point blank refusing to call what's going on in Gaza a genocide is because they are on the record having supported many of these Israeli measures which collectively punish the Palestinian people and which have led to the awful number of deaths that we're seeing. Going right to the start, when, right after October 7th, Israel cuts off food, fuel, and water. You've got first Keir Starmer and then Emily Thornberry saying, I think Israel does have that right. You've got the continuation of arms licenses. Now, some of them have been suspended, but David Lammy specifically insisted on a carve-out for components which go towards making F-35 jets. Many of these airstrikes that we've seen, which have killed Palestinian displaced people, sheltering in sometimes, schools, that those have involved F-35 jets. When you look at the sanction measures brought in by David Lammy, You've had just a handful of settlement outposts being subject to sanctions. There are more than 100 illegal settlements which constructed by the Israelis in the West Bank, which also enjoy the protection of the Israeli state and Israeli army. You've got the government of Israel hosting events, their party, Likud, hosting events calling for the settlement of Gaza. The IDF have said that Palestinians won't be allowed to return to the north of Gaza, right? That is forcible transfer. That is a war crime. And I think when you look at the attacks on humanitarian aid convoys, on hospitals, on infrastructure, when you look at the targeting of children by snipers, when you look at the destruction of health facilities, these all meet the definition of genocidal acts. Now, it's not that David Lammy is bad at law, doesn't understand what the law is. It's not that Keir Starmer doesn't know what the law is regarding genocide. It's just that if they were to say, okay, yes, this is a genocide, even if they were to say, all right, this has gone to a certain number of deaths where we can finally admit it, that would be admitting their own culpability. And that's why they deny the facts in front of their face. And if I sound upset, it's because I am, because I think there's something so disgusting, morally cowardly about how Labour have been over the entire course of this war. The reason why they went all in for Israel right after October 7th is because they were scared of being called anti-Semitic. That's the reason why, right? They were like, well, we don't want to suffer the same fate as Jeremy Corbyn. That's why we're not going to call for a ceasefire at the beginning. That's why we're not going to say you can't collectively punish the Palestinian people like this. That's the only reason why they did it. It's for pure, naked political advantage domestically. And now that's gotten them to the point of they can't admit that a genocide is a genocide. And there's something more repulsive to me about saying this and not even really believing it, right? Saying it because you want to save your own political skin. For me, that's more disgusting than meaning it.